Hey guys, thanks for watching again. This is week 3 of my 18-week contest preparation, and I've been going through every week my journey. In week 1 I started going over my competition history, my diet history and training history, so you're welcome to have a look at the previous videos which actually give instructions on how I actually set up for a contest preparation. And then each week I've been checking in and covering a couple of key areas that are of interest. So I have a look at the week 2 video log, which covers stress, being able to adhere to your macros and get all of your training in. So this week I'm going to talk to you about adhering to your macronutrient targets while you're traveling or overseas or on vacation. But first, just to give you a quick summary of where I'm at with my weight. So week 1 I started at 69 kilos. Week 2 I had a blowout. I wasn't able to adhere to my macros, and I talked to you last week obviously about stress and what that can do. This week I was really adherent actually. I reduced my macros down a little bit. My protein target for this week was 160 grams of protein, 155 grams of carbohydrate, which was really manageable, and 50 grams of fat. So I went from 71 kilos last week, or just over, and I weighed in whilst away in KUWAIT, which was on Tuesday morning, at 68.8, and I wasn't really sure whether that was an accurate measurement because I went on 2 scales and they gave different readings. So I've actually weighed in again this morning. So I've just been flying for the last 24 hours. I got up today, went for a walk, jumped on the scales, and I'm back down to 68.3 on my scales, which is really comforting. So that's close to 3 kilos in the week. So I'm really happy with that. That's way more than what I needed to achieve, but considering what got me to 71 kilos based on a huge amount of carbohydrate intake the previous week, yeah, I'm not surprised that my weight's back to normal and I've proceeded to do better. Eating away or eating on holiday and takeaway foods. How do you stick to your macros, especially when you're traveling? I get asked this a lot of the time from clients. Firstly, the key thing is forward planning. Don't ever leave yourself when you're in a position where the only food option that you have is going to be a choice that takes up your entire day's macronutrients in one hit. That is not a good starting place. I will start by recommending taking a protein bar on the plane and your supplements, not only for the time while you're on the plane, but for the duration of your holiday. So if you know how long you're going to be away, take enough, supplies, I guess, to help, for those emergency situations if you're not able to get a whole food source. So I didn't take a protein powder while I was away in KUWAIT this last week. I just took a couple of bars. Wish that I did, because a lot of the protein bars have somewhere between 5 and 11 grams of fat per bar. So I was actually relying on a couple of days, 2 bars to get my protein intake up, but that also meant that I was getting very close to my fats. So that's the first thing. The other thing I would recommend doing if you're going on holidays is to take a multivitamin and an iron supplement, especially for women. Already females, we have a relatively low caloric intake anywho, and it makes it quite challenging unless you're eating all of your protein sources from red meat to actually hit your iron targets for the day. So I always pack an iron supplement and I always have a multivitamin, knowing that it's unlikely that I'm going to have the same food variety to get all of my micronutrients in. So I just like to be safe than sorry. And I guess when you're traveling overseas, a lot of the time the environment that you're traveling to, there is a potential for lots of different viruses and bacteria. So give your immune system a fighting chance as well when you are traveling to different climates. The other thing that you need to consider when you're traveling is making sure that the facility that you're staying at minimum have a kitchenette, so and a mini bar fridge so you can store some of your food and prepare something. I remember the last couple of national championships and world tours that we've been on, some of the hotels don't have mini bars or microwaves even in their facilities, so we've had to go out and buy a microwave and somehow organize with the hotel to get a mini bar just to store a couple of things. So at minimum have those available. You don't have to eat out every meal when you go on holidays either. It's more than suitable to have things in your hotel room. You'll save money doing that as well, and it assures that you're going to have at least 1 or 2 of your meals per day that are more macro friendly, I guess. When I get to the country that I'm traveling to, I always get into my room, I unpack, and then source out the closest grocery store so that I can go and get some supplies. So on my list of staples, number one is always going to be some kind of egg white product or whole eggs. I always have a low fat or no fat cheese. This is really great as a high protein snack, or I can add it to an omelette or something like this. And remember as well, if you have a microwave, you can always use the egg whites in the microwave to make an omelette. You don't have to have a frying pan for that. It's really easy. Just whisk it up, put it in the microwave for 2.5 minutes, maybe stir it at the halfway mark, and you're going to have yourself a perfect omelette. So that's a really convenient way to get a good protein source in. The next thing I'm always going to take is a no-fat Greek yogurt or a ricotta cheese. I usually add flavored protein powder to this to give it a nice sweet taste. Powdered stevia, I'll always get stevia. I can add this to my yogurt, I can add this to ricotta cheese to make it sweet, and I have it in my tea and coffee just to get me through if I need that sweet taste. Cinnamon, that's another one I use. Again, I can put that in my coffee, I can put that into the yogurts for something sweet, and I also have scrambled egg whites with sugar and cinnamon sometimes. Just to mix it up. And lunch meats, so like ham, deli turkey, deli chicken breast, anything like that for a quick protein source. Or you can even do the little roll-ups, so like ricotta cheese, smear it over your slices of ham or turkey, just roll it up, and then you've got like your quick on-the-go snack. So that's something else that I have just as an emergency if I can't get access to something more wholesome. The other thing I'll do is make sure I have a carbohydrate source available. So I'll usually get some kind of a cereal product. I'm not a huge fan of having heavy foods before I exercise, so my carbohydrate of choice is usually cornflakes, rice bubbles, and a skim milk, and I'll usually have that with some stevia. So I'll get something like that. They're usually available in any country, so it doesn't matter where you are, you can get access to something like that. And water. Go out and buy yourself a bottle of water, one that you can take to your gym if you're training, and then maybe like a bigger gallon or something so that you can have it available in your room, and top up as you go. And don't want to risk drinking the water supply. Now, when I was in KUWAIT, we were running the tap and it was like bright yellow. So the first thing that we did was go and get some fresh water. So for someone that's new to flexible dieting, that can be very daunting, but it is quite easy the more you practice tracking your macros. So I'm just going to give you a couple of tips on how you can actually do this. So if the nutrition information isn't supplied, there are a lot of takeaway stores and restaurants that are now putting the macronutrient profiles online. Check straight away to see whether they actually fit your macros. If you know that you've got a dinner out later today, or you've got a dinner out tomorrow night, think about what you might like to have. And if you don't want to have to restrict yourself at all, then set yourself up like that. I typically start my day, if I'm eating out, by having a high protein source and lower calorie food choices in the early part of the day. Unless of course I have training, then I'll have a moderate carbohydrate dish. By doing this, it just ensures that you have greater flexibility and choice later in the day. When you order out, I would usually suggest looking at the protein source first. If you have lots of protein left over, I usually always opt for like a lean red meat sauce. Firstly, it's really high in protein, and it's also a really good source of iron. If I don't have that, I would choose a larger portion of chicken or fish. If I'm coming to the end of the day and I have very little protein left, I would probably look for shellfish or prawns or some kind of seafood, because they're typically a little lower in protein content. Or I would just look for like a pasta. Generally something like that would have low protein because there's not as much meat added to it, or a vegetarian dish. You need to look at your carbohydrates and fats. If you're nearing to the end of the day and you only have around say 30 grams of carbohydrate less, I would definitely avoid pizza, pasta, grains and cereals. The other thing that you can do is, if you know that the carbohydrate source is served separately, still order the dish, just rule out eating any of the carbohydrate that comes on the plate. And if you've only got around 30 grams of carbohydrate left, unfortunately that probably means that you're not going to be able to have dessert or prioritize. If you wanted to be able to have dessert, perhaps that means that you don't have any carbohydrate in your main meal. When it comes to your fats, firstly, make sure you know how much you have left. If you haven't got a lot, I would definitely steer clear of salmon as your choice of protein, as salmon is a lot higher in fat than other meat products. Avoid creamy based dishes. carbonaras, anything, you know, that kind of looks like it's got a white sauce in it. It's usually going to be much higher in fat, so select a tomato-based sauce instead. And this is what I did predominantly when I was away in Kuwait. The other thing that you can do is ask for your food to be grilled. If it says that it's fried, ask if they have the option to grill. Obviously that's going to save you a lot of unnecessary calories. Similarly said, if a dish comes with a sauce or a dressing, ask for it to be on the side. That way you can choose how much you would like to have. So if you have a lot of carbohydrate and fat and protein left, that's great. I actually set myself up this way when I was in Kuwait. I was having basically a protein-only breakfast or doing intermittent fasting. So I would get up early, not eat anything, or just have something very small and just high in protein. I would train. I do find that I can still train quite intensively without having any carbs, which is great, but not everyone works that way. So I was able to have basically anything that I wanted. And just made sure that I was ordering foods that would get me to my set macros, and I did really well. I was super proud of myself. So I hit my numbers for all 7 days that I was away, and the results paid off in 1 week. As you know, I've lost 2.5 kilos just by hitting my numbers again. So how do you track your macros if the restaurant doesn't list the nutrition information? Well, it's kind of the same way that you would do it if you were cooking at home. It comes down to breaking down the meal into its individual components. So have a look at the protein size, guesstimate the weight. Is it 100 grams? Is it 200 grams? Does it look bigger than what you're used to having? And I usually try and err on the upper end if I'm unsure, because I would rather go under my targets than completely below them. So I always overestimate, and whatever you think the fat content is, add a little extra just in case. If there is nothing on the menu that you are familiar with, then if you are a good cook, hopefully you can still kind of eyeball what you're eating and break it down into its individual components. I'm very creative and like to cook cuisines from all over the globe, so I typically know what herbs, spices, the ingredients are for specific dishes, so I know what I'm eating. But if it's not you, just stick to something that is basic. Try and order the chicken, order something that you're familiar with so that you know how to track it. And if you don't, and this is in a contest preparation, definitely don't risk it. Be organized, as I said. Have foods available in your hotel or your facility where you're staying so that you can cook something that you know the macros to so that you hit your number. In mind, it's all about consistency. Even if you go up and have a really high day and you weren't sure what you were consuming, don't just go stuff it and eat what you want for the rest of the time that you're away. Try and get back on track the very next day, and you can still have really great progress. And as you saw me last week, I had a day where I had 500 grams of carbohydrates from like stress and was overeating, but I was able to recoup and kind of come back from that just by being consistent every day thereafter. Just by being consistent the next 7 days. Just by being consistent for the next 7 days, I was able to catch back up and be where I needed to be. So I hope that you found that useful, and you can see how my progress for my contest is going. If you would like information on nutrition coaching, nutrition plans, flexible dieting coaching, you're more than welcome to jump over to my website. It's www.hbnutrition.com.au. Yes, I am Australian, so everything is .au over there. If you're not following me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is Holly T. Baxter. I also have my YouTube channel. Hopefully this is where you're watching it now, but if you're not, head over to my YouTube channel. That is just Holly Baxter, and there are plenty of links available on my social media to help get you there. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a really great day. Stay tuned for next week as I progress through my 18-week contest preparation.